Good day. You are listening to the Bloomin Bodhisattva podcast brought to you by the Rissho Kosei-kai Dharma Center in Oklahoma City. I'm James.
I'm Alyx.
I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm Karin.
And we're
the Bloomin Bodhisattvas.
So today we're going to talk about the last part of the Eightfold Path. And so we split this up into 3 parts, and traditionally that's the way that it's been done. You have the first 2 are about wisdom, the second 3 are about behavior, and then the third 3 are about meditation. You're not going to question my math on any of that?
No.
Okay, all right.
So it's 8 broken up into 3.
Right, 3 little baskets, right?
Yeah.
Except one of them's 2.
Except
Yeah.
one of them's 2, right? So there.
Wouldn't it be easier to just add like a
I think
another in there? Just
I
make it
think
even.
it's been this way for a while, and who are we to question the Buddha's math? Really? Okay.
I don't know. I think the Buddha would find this hilarious.
I totally do as well. And that is one of the nicer things about this particular religious tradition is that it sure has a sense of humor, as I'm sure everyone can tell.
Yes.
Okay.
We wouldn't be allowed to be here if it didn't.
So the third basket is called samadhi. And so samadhi is an old word that goes way back to Hinduism, and it is about the state of mind you achieve when you are able to enter nirvana. And that is a state of perfect calmness, of no thought. And at that point, you can extinguish yourself and you can move on out of the wheel of rebirth. Now, in Buddhism, it's a little bit different. We are looking at samadhi as something to cultivate in our daily lives, not necessarily as a way to escape the world, but as a way to kind of live in the world with a very calm mind. And so Buddhism fundamentally believes that your state of mind is most important. And so let me ask you guys this. Why is it not just enough to simply behave well?
Because you might not be behaving well in your brain.
That's true. So why would that matter? As long as you're being nice to people, who cares what's going on in your brain?
It's unhealthy for yourself. And energy, no matter where it is, whether you think it's coming out or not, still affect people.
Thoughts shape actions.
Exactly. I didn't word that very well.
No,
It's
that's
fine.
exactly right.
I summarized for you.
Thank you.
It's all a trade-off.
And if someone is not well-intentioned when they're performing that action, can be, the energy isn't good. It's not a good flow.
That's what I was trying to say. You
Right.
worded it perfectly.
And so even unconsciously, we can affect other people, even though we might be nice. So you could be being nice to someone who, got the part in the audition that you really wanted, and you're smiling at them, but really inside, you hate them.
Don't look at me like that, Alyx. And I didn't hate them. I was just very devastated.
No,
I cried.
I know.
I cried.
It's because they were lovely people.
They
They
were
are
lovely
lovely people, not were. They're still alive
Yes.
for now.
And so for Buddhism, from our thoughts, actions arise. And so you want to kind of get into your own conscious mind and try to get it to where the thoughts that are coming out are going to automatically make your actions good and automatically have a positive effect, either consciously or unconsciously, on everyone around you. So that's why samadhi is very, very important. Now, let's look at our minds. So in Buddhism, we have this concept called the monkey mind.
Thanks, Jocelyn.
Okay, and so it's a metaphor. So monkeys have a tendency to just kind of run around. They've got very short attention spans, and they run around doing this and doing that. They're always just very, very frenetic and very active. And so, how does that describe our mind? What does your mind do when we talk about the monkey mind? What does that mean?
It jumps from thought to thought all the time. It's always thinking. It's always running.
Yes. What else?
And it's running off with those thoughts, doing stuff with them.
Right. So when we have a thought, it doesn't just sit still. And so when our minds run off, like where are they going to? All right, give me an example of ways that your mind just runs away with itself.
When thinking of my little stories.
And so are there stories that you are just making up about yourself or just writing fiction? What are you doing?
Fiction.
Okay, so you're...
And at any given moment, my brain would rather be thinking about the characters and the story than whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are creative tend to go off on that. That's not necessarily a bad thing at all. What else?
No, it is a bad thing when it starts to come... when it starts to affect day-to-day life. When I'm sitting there in the middle of class and I realize, oh, I haven't been paying attention for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, so living in a fantasy world all the time, not necessarily a good thing.
I'm not trying to.
I know.
It just happens. It happens to the best of us.
All right, so
And
other
I am
examples.
the best of us.
Something that you might be anxious about that might be coming up.
Sure. In fact, sometimes it's hard to not think about those things.
Yeah.
Right. So intrusive thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And impulsive thoughts.
And impulsive thoughts where, you just really are trying to keep your mind from just running away with you a lot. Okay, what else? Karin, what are other things that our monkey mind leads us into?
If I'm dealing with grief, my mind will really go off and get into, just the loss of it, whatever it is I'm experiencing. But I've learned, like through the teachings, that if you sit there with your suffering and are compassionate with yourself, then, it's like salve, or it can help heal your grief, if you will. But that's when it can really, I would say, be intrusive, feelings of loss.
Yeah, and so we have a term for that called wallowing. What does wallowing mean to you guys?
Just sitting in your sadness.
For whatever reason, I've always associated wallowing with a pig.
Yes, that's because that's what they do.
Yeah, they wallow in the mud.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not for some reason. That's the whole point of the metaphor.
Yeah.
It's really about
we're
pigs.
the pig.
Yes, we're the pigs.
The mud is the grief or the sadness or whatever,
Yes.
and we're wallowing in it by
Right.
But pigs wallow in mud for like a good. They use the mud to help cool themselves down.
They're having fun with it.
Yeah,
It's true.
the mud is actually good for the pig. So I think we need a
We're just
new
judging
metaphor.
the pigs too harshly.
Yeah.
We are.
It's true.
Pigs are
Well,
beautiful creatures.
And grief isn't a bad thing
No.
either. There's times when it's appropriate to be sad, to feel bad.
You need to
So-
be able to feel your own grief and really
Yeah.
let yourself.
Yeah, because if you don't, then it does come back. It does come back. It always comes back to haunt you, unless you... the funny thing about grief is that it comes and goes. It'll come.
Yes.
And then you sit with it and you let it go.
Yeah.
But you don't attach to it and keep going around and round with it and
That's
start
how you-
wallowing.
Yeah, that's how you make yourself suffer more than you need to.
Exactly.
Yay!
So, training the monkey mind is what samadhi is really about. Our minds are really wonderful, great, and powerful things. However, they don't know when to stop. And the thoughts just go and go and go because the brain that's what its job is to generate thoughts. And that's okay, but you are not your mind. And you have to know when to tell your mind to calm down and let's go to the next thing. Otherwise, you get carried away in some really, really painful states that are not only bad for you and unhealthy for you, they're unhealthy for the people around you. So thinking itself isn't really a problem. In fact, you need to kind of go off and think about things. You don't always have to be in the moment every single minute of every day. In fact, you need some time to reflect and kind of process things. And sometimes that means kind of going inside of yourself. When thinking becomes a problem, it's when you get carried away into some really dark places or when reality gets distorted. And so, one of the main ways that reality gets distorted is that we project our expectations, our desires, our fears, and our hatreds onto reality, even when they're not there. So, can you think of times when you've done that?
I mean, a good example for me would be my anxiety and my panic attacks. I'd create self-fulfilling prophecies for myself for like performances or whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna have a panic attack if I do this. I'm gonna have anxiety. I'm gonna be feeling awful the entire time. And then I actually end up doing it because, I'm so anxious about it that I make myself anxious about getting anxious. And then it happens and it's just a continuing cycle.
And that is one of the big problems with panic attacks is that they prevent you from doing the one thing that's going to help you with panic attacks, which is like doing the thing and having it not be horrible and then going, oh, I might need to reset my view of, reality a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that is a good example of distorting reality. Another one that I think about, and this is one that, boys are really bad about. And that is, okay, so they are attracted to a female, to a girl.
Okay, don't call them
then-
that.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Hey.
And so-
This is
boys
not
are
an
attracted-
alpha bro podcast.
I know. Okay, so when boys are attracted to girls, they start distorting reality. And what they'll do is mistake every little eye contact, every little body language, every little look their direction, every little smile to say, oh, wow, they're really into me. Even though that person doesn't even know they exist. And so we do this with everything. We're constantly saying, we're having sets of expectations, and then we project them onto reality, and then reality fails to be what it actually is. Instead, it's some kind of weird distortion. The other thing that we do is we sometimes crawl inside of our own minds and get lost in this kind of hall of mirrors where we just keep feeding ourselves reflections of things that are going on either with us or around us that are completely self-contained and don't really actually correspond to what's going on. And so we become absent from the world. And that can be a problem sometimes. So what happens when we become absent? What are some of the things that we do that are a problem?
I mean, we can't pay attention a lot of the time.
Right. So we lose focus on what's happening, like in class, for example.
And in reality.
Yes. Yeah, you'll be having a conversation with somebody and you just drifted off and you missed half of what they said.
Now they're talking about something tragic and you don't know how to comfort them because you don't know the context.
And you feel stupid about asking them to repeat themselves because then it seems you're not a good friend, and then around and around it goes.
Or a lot of times what happens with me is I'll forget things are happening. Like I have a thing to do at this time and then I miss it, or
We know.
You know what? Hey.
Yeah, well, guilty here as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not the only one here.
No.
Thank you.
I have been so absent-minded that I have lost jobs because I just forgot to show up for a shift or forgot when the shift was. I've had people break up with me because I just forgot we were supposed to go do a thing. And it has been something that's plagued my existence for a long, long time. And so mindfulness and iPhone reminders.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I have 60 of them on my phone for everything.
So in Buddhism, everything starts with the mind. And once you realize that, you start to realize that our mind has got a lot of stuff cluttering it up. And that stuff is not necessarily our fault. It comes from our conditioning. And so when we talk about conditioning in Buddhism, we're talking about conditioning on a lot of different levels. One is cultural. And so we have been raised from birth in this particular culture to see the world a certain way. And it clouds our judgment about all kinds of things. It It causes us to focus on some things and ignore other things. It causes us to make judgment about things that really aren't there, whether it could be about how, happiness is supposed to work, or how you should treat an ethnic minority. All these things kind of get conditioned into us from being raised by a family and having media bombarding us with images and messages, and the education system indoctrinating us, and religion, and all these things kind of get in there and mess with our ability to see reality. Can you think of other examples of that?
I mean, you kind of just said it. That would have been my answer. Is just media is so fast paced and constantly feeding us information. It's just gunking up everything, and it's hard to sift through.
With the amount of misinformation out there too. And a lot of times people would rather believe misinformation that supports their ideals rather than do the 2 minutes of actual research it takes to figure out, you're kind of wrong there, fam.
Yeah.
And
Just a little.
I'm not sure our brains have evolved with technology to process all the information and data that we're consuming.
It's hard to slow down. Like, I've noticed I used to be such a bookworm when I was a kid, and then I got a phone, and I started consuming, like, TV shows and all different kinds of media, and I can't sit down and just slow my brain down and process anything I'm reading anymore. Just one example.
So our cultural conditions are going to have a huge impact on our brains and on our minds and the way that we perceive reality. The other thing is our experiences. And so as we go through life, we get bombarded with things that are pleasant and things that are unpleasant, things that are, creative and things that are destructive, and they leave their marks on our minds. Now, even though you guys are still young and you've not been completely knocked down by reality like the rest of us have,
We haven't.
still,
Yeah,
I'm
are you sure about that?
So here's a good example. All right, so we talk about having emotional baggage. What does that mean?
You can't let go of your past negative experience or perceived negative experiences.
Yeah.
They're the tragic little things you take with you.
Yeah, and it could be simple as, when you were a kid, you got attacked by a dog, and now you really have a hard time with dogs, even though most of them are very, very nice. And so another way that it comes into play is like with relationships. So if you've been burned before in your toxic, dysfunctional relationship from the past, what does it do to you when you start entering in new relationships?
Makes you wary, makes you cautious and paranoid.
Mm-hmm. I think, Karin, you had a really good saying about this one.
Yeah, well, I was going to say we repeat. If we don't heal, we repeat. Just because you ended one relationship that was toxic doesn't mean that you're going to enter another one, because unless you heal and reconcile, those experiences, then the adage goes, if you don't heal from those who cut you, you'll bleed on the ones who did not.
Exactly. So we end up taking out our conditioning on people that had nothing to do with it. And you can see this in interactions with people, that they come into an interaction with all this stuff, and then they take it out either for good or for ill on whoever happens to just be there. And so, Jocelyn, you're a waitress at server. And so you see, customers come in and they're already upset about something before they even lay eyes on you. And then now they're going to take it out on you.
Especially because most of the time they don't see you as a person. You're just a servant to them. So they can treat you however they want.
And I think that that's one of the reasons that, people, go to situations like that, is because maybe they've had, a boss that's kind of abused them all day, and they just need something on down the pecking order that they can take it out on.
Yeah, they need an outlet.
And that just doesn't work. Those kind of outlets don't actually help you. In fact, they just end up perpetuating your own emotional state, and now you've inflicted it on other people as well. So samadhi, the whole point of it is to bring calm, tranquility, dare I say,
Quiescence?
yes.
You
to the
need it,
mind.
it's back?
Yes.
A
So,
joyous day, halloo hallay.
Oh my god.
So now that we've had kind of a general discussion about samadhi, let's get into let's see, which one of this is it? Sixth of the Eightfold Path, right effort.
There's 2 left now.
Yes, we're so close. We can do this.
You can do it.
I
Okay.
can taste it.
So
The end of the wheel.
right effort is really about just kind of basic things like diligence and persistence and, kind of sticking to the path, that kind of thing, just kind
And
of
sticking
being in
it to the man. And
No.
Oh.
No, that's no.
is there a joke for that? Can I add one?
No.
Oh.
All right. So, first of all, let me ask you the big question. Why is it so hard to be good? Why is it so hard to be sane?
'Cause it's so easy to just not. That's our brain's natural state, to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make a conscious effort to do all this good stuff and not just take the easy way out.
Yeah, I think we need to acknowledge that a lot of the really messed up things we do are instinctual and they are natural and they are kind of part of who we are as human beings. That doesn't make it healthy.
No.
All right. Your fight or flight mechanism, it's there and it's there for reasons. But just because it goes off doesn't mean you get to bitch out the waitress.
It's like when your dog gets anxious about thunderstorms.
Yes.
And that's stressing the poor thing out. And you can tell it's bad for that creature to be stressed out, for your poor dog to be scared of the fireworks. But it doesn't know. You see, we're like that too, except we can make the conscious effort to think, oh, those are just fireworks.
Right. And so that's what all of this is about, is greater and greater awareness of the things that make us more healthy and the things that make us less healthy. And so being good is hard because, we have a part of our makeup that really is on the alert for threats and sometimes makes threats up even when they're not there. We also have a part of ourselves where we really get mired in anxiety or depression, and all of those things might be natural responses to a very stressful environment that doesn't make them okay.
Especially like nowadays, those instincts are in place for when we were, our lives were constantly in danger, constantly threatened by other predators or whatever. Now that we don't have that problem, it's like, okay, what do we do with this?
It's almost like we're just trying to make up things to be stressed out about because we've eliminated all the real things to be stressed out about.
Yes.
If we're not stressed out all the time, why is the fight or flight instinct still there? We got to give it a reason to work.
Well, we're going to talk about how we can calm that down. So, right effort, once you decide that I want to be better, right effort gives you the ability to keep making progress towards really sanity, peace of mind, peace on earth. That is what we are after as Buddhists.
It's part of our vow, our pledge.
Exactly. And it's just part of
to our country, to our community, and to the world.
So that's our thought, our path. And so how do you fight laziness? Let's get into it. No, I'm not looking at you, Jocelyn. No.
You make an effort first and foremost.
Okay, so how do you make effort? What do you do?
Both of y'all are sending shade towards me, and
no,
I don't appreciate this.
We're just trying
put
to
in an
encourage
effort.
you. We're just trying to
I'm
encourage
joking
you.
on purpose. I'm making fun of you because I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you a little heart.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So seriously, Jocelyn, how do you fight laziness?
I mean, have my mom put a fire under my
So we call that extrinsic motivation. That's where you've got other people that are kind of, push, or other things that are kind of pushing you into making more effort. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I would argue against that it's necessarily laziness. Sometimes it's just like the way your brain works, or you're stressed out, you don't know how to handle it, you don't know what else to do, so the only thing you can is just sit down, not do anything. Sometimes it's depression, you have no motivation, you can't bring yourself to do it. It's not, I almost feel like the word lazy is just a way,
Judgmental.
judgmental. It's a judgment on how people handle their own things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely people who just like, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do it.
Okay.
Say it again.
I don't want to do that.
So what's a better phrase than laziness? Because I think you're absolutely right about the judgmental part of that.
Lack of motivation.
Yeah, I was going to go with unmotivated.
Yeah.
Karin, what do you think?
My laziness is disguised as procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I just kind of kick it down the road a little bit. I'll get to that, get to that, and then it does become overwhelming half the time, by not handling it, in a diligent amount of time. But I like unmotivated better than.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like I deal with procrastination all the time.
Same here.
It's due to anxiety. It's like I have all this other stuff that I need to do that I can't work in this environment, and I need to chill out for a second, and then I end up pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back, and then I have a bunch of other things to do alongside that. It's overwhelming, and I don't want to do it anymore. Like I can't physically do it without breaking out or getting anxious about it because it's
or
overwhelming.
both.
Yeah.
You can always have the double fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we are really an overwhelmed culture right now. We always have more going on than we have time to do it in. And that really makes procrastination almost a survival mechanism sometimes because you just can't be at it 24/7. So when setting goals, what would a worthy goal be for, in this kind of Buddhist sense?
I think it has to do with what these 3 episodes are about. It would include right livelihood, right action, right thought. All the other 7 spokes of the wheel. We can name them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wisdom, effort. So all of those
Another
things
one.
work together. And so let's think about this. You can have goals that are just like, I want to have as much ice cream as I can possibly eat. Is that a good goal?
No.
Yeah.
That's abundance.
Mm-hmm. Gluttony, that sort of thing. And so
Sins.
Yeah, we don't really do sin in Buddhism that much, but things that are goals that are just for you and you alone, and that's not necessarily a good one. Now, of course, you should do things that make you happy, but where do you cross the line of like doing things that are happy or doing things that are good?
I mean, you have to make sure you're doing something that isn't detrimental to yourself and others.
Or not our happiness or what makes us happy is getting there is going to affect others in a negative way or affect our lives or ourselves in a negative way.
Right. So take a longer term view and look at it in terms of like not just what it's going to do to you right here and right now, but how its little tendrils are going to spread. The ripples will spread around. And that's a good Buddhist way to look at it.
Yeah, it's
being
like
aware.
Yeah, it's like how the ice cream, it'll make you feel good if like you have a little cup or a scoop of ice cream. Yeah, that's great. But if you have
ice cream all you want, like that's
gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you're gonna get a tummy ache.
You're gonna feel a little.
You're gonna have to become a tummy ache survivor, and we don't want that.
No, that would be sad. Another thing I think is to when you're trying to make your goals realistic is to be careful not to think so big that they become unattainable.
Yeah.
And I think for you guys at your age, that's a really big deal because you're, as we were talking about before, looking at the world in terms of, climate change, in terms of, a lot of the kind of conflict and hatred that goes on right now. It could really seem like the world is just this scary, overwhelming place and that your ability to change it is almost nothing. So
Our
what
lives
do you do?
are short in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. So what do you do about that? How do you sort of set goals that can help achieve a better world without feeling like you're overwhelmed by how bad the world is?
Well, sometimes, at least for me, I need to take a step back from that every now and then. I mean, a lot of times I fully can't, since a lot of the legislation being passed affects me personally. Jocelyn gets it.
Yeah, I get it.
I can't just take a step back when it's like, oh, they're taking away my rights again. Yay.
Yippee!
But, you know, as a single person, I can't put everything on my plate to fix that because I am a grain of sand. I know if I work together with organized events, that's great, and I can do that. But I can't put all of this on my own plate because that's going to wind up driving me insane.
Yes, that's a very good way to look at it. And so you want to try to see what you can do around you that has a positive impact.
Yeah, pay attention to the little things. You know, when we're talking about our happiness, how happy can you be if you don't, like, concern yourself or with good nutrition, enough sleep? So I think that's, you know, something that we can, you know, the saying goes, you know, not see the forest for the trees. We're looking at the bigger picture, but in the meantime, you still need to take care of yourself, the little things every day for the big goal to happen.
Yeah, and so you can't lose sight of just self-care, and that's a really good goal to have. And that's different from trying to feel, you know, constant joy all the time. Okay, and it's more, you know, Buddhism is more long-term and a lot more kind of steady. You know, it's not a lot of hills and valleys. It's really trying to kind of even it all up.
Trying to get it to plateau.
I think helps us is what we call setting our intention. I think this helps with right effort a lot. And so, you know, a lot of times we just kind of go through life just sort of reacting to whatever's going on. But I think you can do some things kind of up front that kind of help you stick with the plan, help you not overreact to things that happen, and kind of help you make progress on the path, you know, every day. And so it may be kind of a morning ritual. So for example, what I do, I teach high school. And so, you know, high school is exhausting. Teenagers are exhausting. They often
Tell
can
me
be,
about it.
they can be really difficult, you know, and it can be one of those jobs where if you let it, it can really stress you out. And so every morning I have a cup of coffee and I sit out on the porch and I just kind of set my head right. And I've got my little altar with Buddha there, and I'll say some modaimokus, and, you know, just think, you know what, I'm going to have a good day, and I'm not going to let, you know, whatever happens kind of, you know, get out of hand. And I like my life, and I like this job, and that sort of sets me off. Sometimes playing music in the morning. Like I'll set my little speaker outside my room and I'll greet people in the hall and I have a little playlist every morning.
Yeah, I see you coming up with your playlist sometimes.
Yes.
You have themes.
I have a daily theme, and then
What's your theme for next week?
I haven't decided yet. Sometimes it'll be like you know, whatever the day of the week is. Like there's a lot of songs about Tuesday, for example. But sometimes I'll just be, you know, today's theme is about dreams, or today's theme's about, if it's raining, I'll play songs about rain.
You need to do a spooky playlist.
You should do an ABBA You should do an
Absolutely.
ABBA playlist.
I got
So
you.
we're just
I
going
got you.
all goth.
You
Yes.
you need to do ABBA.
Okay, remember, I've got to keep it PG-13.
ABBA.
Okay, ABBA, of course, lots of ABBA. But I say good morning to like what I call the parade of teenage zombies. And I say good morning like 50 times. And maybe 1 in 10 will like move or twitch a little bit. And then maybe 1 in 20 will actually say good morning back. And so I'm just going, you know what? I don't care because I'm in a good place. And if that doesn't rub off on you, then I've done my job.
This is why you have to play ABBA.
So you might do that in the morning. You might do it like
Feel
before.
good band.
You might do it before you have something unpleasant or tedious to do. Can you guys give me examples of that?
School.
Work.
Yeah. So what do you do to make it more palatable?
I work with somebody. Like I do school and study with somebody, so I have somebody to keep me accountable, and it's more fun, and we're working together.
Oh, that's great. Good for you.
Yeah.
What else?
I do something to reward myself.
Ooh, good for you. Like you know, when you've had sort of a successful day, what
Yeah.
does Karin do for rewards?
You know, go out to dinner.
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
have a really nice bowl of ramen.
Ramen is a good reward.
I do like ramen.
Yes. So little things like that. So don't just feel like, right effort is this constant just pushing yourself to try to stay on the path. If it's like, it's not that kind of effort. It's more sort of setting your mind so that, as you go through, you feel good about kind of making a little bit more progress towards sanity and peace of mind as you go. Seventh one is right mindfulness. And so mindfulness is something that you see, kind of thrown around in kind of pop psychology all the time. And so have you heard mindfulness? What do you think it means?
You've got to be mindful, man.
Okay.
What every counselor / therapist told me to do without actually explaining how to do it.
Well, that's the thing. So
you got it.
So let's see what it's good for. So another word for mindfulness is metacognition.
We're entering the metaverse.
Absolutely, we are.
Ooh, fancy.
So
Get Zuckerberg's whale.
So the mind has a wonderful property of being able to kind of separate itself from itself. And so you can observe yourself, observing yourself, observing yourself. And so
it's a wormhole.
It's kind of like that. It's more like a little hall of mirrors. But yes.
Well,
so you can sort of step outside.
When you put a mirror against a mirror, it creates that infinite reflection. That's a wormhole.
No, that's not what a wormhole is.
Then what is it called? I thought it was called
wormhole is when a black hole forms a tunnel.
Then what is that called? It's been I thought it was called a wormhole. What it has a name.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
What is that supposed to mean?
All right. So mindfulness. So this is where you become metacognitively aware of your own thought processes without attaching to them. This is the trick. And so Buddhism is going to tell you how to do that. It is a good thing to have because normally when thoughts come up, you want to do one of two things. You want to run towards them or run away from them, right?
Or both.
So now you just want to let them be. And the way that you let them be is by suspending judgment. All right, so that means you allow a thought to arise and you simply observe it without saying it's a good thought, bad thought, or allowing another thought to come and then another thought to come, and then suddenly you're running a race of thoughts, and suddenly you're back to your 5-year-old birthday party or whatever it happens to be. So this is how we keep our thoughts from running away from us, and this is the real basic technique of meditation that we're going to get into even a little bit deeper in the next one. So what messes with your ability to be mindful?
Introspective about it, being aware of your thoughts and understanding them in a way.
What else? How does this go wrong?
It goes wrong because you're not, staying in the moment. I don't know. Staying in the moment.
No,
I guess. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You're not staying in the moment. You're thinking about other things, in the future, in the past, and getting anxious about what's to come or something, getting embarrassed about something that happened years ago that you can't change and,
or you can
shouldn't
just
affect you anymore.
Or you can just get really anxious about the present. Not even anything that's going to happen, just what's going on right now.
I think mindfulness is synonymous with awareness.
Yeah.
And if we are aware of our surroundings, with what's going on with our own bodies, our own mind, then, you're in the moment, you're good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And so mindfulness allows us to look at our own habits of mind, our own thought processes without sort of stepping in and interfering with them. And so this is a way to actually shift your own thought patterns. Okay, so a lot of times we feel like our thoughts are just there and we have to either escape them or something. You don't. And so our normal reaction to when we have bad thoughts, whether it's in our interactions with other people or just inside of ourselves, our normal reaction is to judge and then either try to push them away or distract ourselves or something like that. And instead, what you're doing is simply observing them without attachment. And this is the practice. And when you start doing this, not only does it affect your own kind of attitude towards your own thoughts and feelings and ideas, it starts having an effect on how you interact with other people. Because if you stop judging yourself, you stop also trying to project judgment on other people, and then you just simply let the encounter be what it is, as opposed to you trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes or where you want it to go or how you want to manipulate it or how you feel like it's manipulating you. All those things are just your mind spinning. So here's the theory. Whenever you react to a thought, you are actually giving it energy. So give me an example of a thought that, you just want to try to run away from.
I'm going to get anxious about this thing.
Okay. So give me an example of a thing that you would be anxious about.
My own mortality.
Sure. Oh my God. Yeah.
We're getting
Just
down
go
to the
right.
deep.
Just go right
First
to
thing I
it.
can think of.
So
You
I was-
took the thought right out of my head.
Yes.
I don't know. Sometimes you wake up and you have to be like, man, what are all the different ways I could die today?
mhm.
Sometimes it's not even like a bad thing. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, yeah, a car could have hit me. Could just been dead on the pavement.
See, I was going to be like, like a presentation or going into class the next day.
No,
Like,
let's
what I
talk
was
about
gonna
our
go
own
for.
mortality, gamers.
Mm.
Oh, I'm about to go on a date. I'm going to get nervous about this. I'm going to, oh, wow.
Remember, you could always be killed.
Oh my God.
At any moment, a number of things could fail and you could die.
So you could distract yourself from your anxious date by just contemplating death.
Apparently.
All right.
That's
you don't
one
do
way.
that?
No.
All right.
Oh.
So, Karin, do you have an example
Of
of something that your thoughts would kind of run away with you?
there's some. I mean, we could go on about that. It happens, yeah. And it as I get older, they change, but they're still there. Intrusive thoughts, but I was thinking more of how I remedy those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I return to breath. But when we think in terms of mindfulness, we talked about awareness. The benefit of mindfulness for me has been clarity as opposed to confusion. And so when I slow my mind down and return to the breath, it helps me see things very clearly. And it does clear up a lot of confusion. And it also helps me communicate with others better, being more clear.
Conditioning. This is the actual cure for conditioning. So instead of going conditioning, stop, you simply observe, aha, I have this habit where when I'm triggered by this, I go to that place. And I can kind of feel it, but that thing, I'm just going to kind of watch it. And then as I'm breathing, I keep going back to the breath. I'm going to kind of find my center again and sort of reset. And then the thought will happen again and the reaction happens again. And you go, aha, there it is. I'm going to reset. And the more that you do that, the less energy it has. And slowly but surely, it's like you're peeling back these onion layers where all of this condition from past experiences and from your culture and all that sort of stuff gradually loses its hold over you just a little bit at a time. And that's what mindfulness is. And so it leaves you with this kind of fair and balanced and sort of even-mindedness. I think, Alyx, you had a very good kind of image that goes with mindfulness.
Yeah, it's sort of like standing by a creek and all your thoughts are leaves. And sometimes you just have to set the leaf on the water and watch it go off.
is called right concentration. So you'll hear this called a bunch of different things, but what it really is talking about is meditation. And so meditation is very central to Buddhism because it's the way that we get all this other stuff done. Because if everything else is about your mind and your mind running away with you is a problem, then how do you kind of train your monkey mind to stop doing that? And it is through meditation. So a real basic form of meditation that you will see in the literature and throughout almost all Buddhist practices is called shamatha meditation.
Or Samantha.
Thank you. So it was not named after Samantha. It goes back a long, long time ago, and all it is about is calming the mind. And
So who was it named after?
shamatha,
Okay.
all right,
And who was Shamatha?
the great lord of calmness.
You're making this up.
Yes. So shamatha meditation is what we call follow the breath, and it's really simple. So in meditation, what you need is something to concentrate on. Otherwise, the mind just goes around. And so the way that I hear it said is that your mind should be kind of like a candle flame that doesn't waver, which sounds almost impossible to me. But follow your breath is like a really good way to kind of get there. And so you always have your breath. So you don't need to be in a place where you've got a shrine or candles or incense or whatever. You just always have your breath. So you could be sitting, at Walgreens waiting for your prescription, and you can just sit there and follow your breath. And so it's done like this, very simply. So as you are sitting with your feet on the floor and your hands on your lap or whatever in kind of upright position, you simply observe your thoughts. And as your thoughts arise, you imagine that they kind of go out of you as you exhale. And that's the very simple shamatha meditation practice. And so what it is practice in is letting go.
It's like you're blowing out a candle, and the candle is your thoughts. And
Kind
it lights
of.
up. Okay.
It's more like you're letting the candle flame stop wavering so much. All right, so you're not trying to extinguish the candle. Instead, you're trying to make the flame steady. And so thoughts are kind of make that candle waver a little bit. And then as they go out, the candle, there's a little gap where the candle flame sort of steadies for a while. Now, you're not trying to avoid thinking. Instead, you're trying to simply observe it and let it be. And so you're putting mindfulness into practice through meditation. And so, do you guys have a meditation practice? How does it work?
When I do my meditations or whatever, I kind of just listen to some sort of music that doesn't have words or anything like that, and just pace. And I'll just kind of get the energy out. Sitting still isn't something I can really do for very long that I like to do, or because I'll fall asleep. So moving and walking and you know what? So moving and focusing on where I'm stepping, how I'm breathing, how my heart rate, whatever, and of course my thoughts as well, because I'm just listening to wordless music and I'm just sitting in that basically.
That's a very good way to do it. And some people do prefer walking meditation. Mm-hmm. And if you're really sleep deprived and start meditating, the ability to keep yourself awake becomes sometimes very difficult.
Yes. You've all observed it.
Have we?
Yeah, I try to meditate during my lunch break, and sometimes I'm just falling asleep sitting up.
Yeah,
and that's
work's exhausting.
It is. So, Karin, did you want to talk about your practice at all?
It's informal, but, I kind of keep it going throughout the day, whether it's the Odai Moku or focusing on the breath, or listening to some meditative music, bowls even, or flute, or going and walking in nature. To me, all of that is meditation. Doing art is to me, a form of meditation or prayer has a spiritual aspect to it.
I do it while driving sometimes. I'm just driving by myself and I'm not listening to anything.
Yep.
I'll meditate in a sort of way.
Chant within
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
And
Doing art is also a huge way. Like if I'm not listening to any sort of like music or anything and I'm just purely focusing on doing art and just thinking, it's a good practice.
it is.
And so that's exactly the point, is to try to bring that calmness into your daily life. And so any opportunity you have to kind of, give your mind some downtime is really beneficial. And so the benefits of meditation and
Yeah,
mindfulness.
you got it, Dad.
Thank you. Are many. And so stress reduction. It literally, with your breathing, it literally sets off the parasympathetic nervous system, which floods your body with chemicals that are meant to kind of counteract all of the stress hormones like cortisol. And
It counteracts the fight or flight.
Absolutely. In fact, I've even heard studies that say that it makes your amygdala, which is the little organ inside of your brain that sets off fight or flight, it actually makes it grow smaller. I've also heard studies, which, help with us that are getting up there in years, that meditation actually makes your brain age backwards, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
So
right.
you should join our our multi-level marketing scheme.
Exactly. That actually
That's what our essential oils will do to you.
that one just aged my brain right there.
Guess you have to meditate.
Yeah, so all of it helps you with just your daily life. And so trying to give yourself, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day of just sitting there and let your brain kind of relax and detox, it helps a lot. Plus, it helps you with your concentration. It helps you be in the moment. And so we've been talking through this entire podcast about how we're often like not in the moment. Meditation helps you get back there and actually keeps you with what's actually happening instead of things that you might want to be happening or wish they were happening instead.
Or whatever else you're thinking of.
Right. So this helps us tune our minds. And so we talked at the very first podcast here about the Eightfold Path, about what it means to be right. What is right effort? What is right mindfulness? Right is being in tune. Meditation tunes your mind. All right, what else about meditation? Mm-hmm.
It's a good practice, especially as someone with anxiety and a panic disorder. It's always been something to kind of just like really set my day. I remember doing it before I go to school because school was something that always caused a lot of anxiety within me. And doing it that early, I'm tired, just being exhausted really triggers that for me. And so I would sit down and just sit in my bed in front of my altar and just light some incense and just kind of breathe for like 5 minutes. And then I get ready, go to school, and I'm fine. I'm calm and I'm chill and I'm okay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
If I don't do it at some point during the day, I can feel it, mentally exhausted. It's good to just turn it off and not think about anything and just be in the moment. So I definitely feel anxious or just overwhelmed at times if I'm not able to have that downtime, if you will.
And we really need that because we have minds that, and we're so busy. And so we think, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And if we ever give ourselves a break, it's almost like we start feeling really guilty and lost, that somehow we're not doing a thing that is going to help make our progress to, whatever that happens to be. And so this goes back to right effort and right mindfulness. All these things are going to help us kind of calm down, slow down, be in our minds, be in the moment, and help our brains become more healthy and kind of help our entire life be healthier. And that in tune is going to help everyone around us. So this is all a very gradual process. And so that is one of the things that you have to get used to in Buddhism, is that you take baby steps all the time. You get a little bit better every day. And then maybe you can look back from, 5 or 10 years from now and go, I'm not the big fat mess that I used to be back in the day.
And one good thing about Buddhism is you're not taking these steps alone.
Exactly.
That's like, it's the Sangha.
Mm-hmm. Here's another thing I want to kind of leave you with. Before I say that, though, keep in mind that all of these 8 parts of the Eightfold Path are all meant to kind of work together as one thing. They all reinforce each other. They're all part of each other. In fact, it's sometimes hard to see where one ends and the other begins sometimes. But really, when it comes down to it, one thing about Buddhism that I find very, very comforting is this belief that once you sort of set your intention on the path, once you decide that you want to be more sane, that you want to have more peace of mind, and that you want the world to be a more peaceful place, it's going to happen. Gradually, little by little, with maybe some false starts, maybe some setbacks, but as long as you've got your intention in the right place, that you really want to do good, it's going to happen over the course of your entire life. And that I find very comforting. Thank you all for listening to the Bloomin Bodhisattva podcast, brought to you by the Rissho Kosei-kai Dharma Center in Oklahoma City. And stay tuned for the next episode when we will talk about the 6 paramitas. Until then, our fellow bodhisattvas,
Keep on bloomin'!